Roll clones, and how about those Chiefs? Welcome back to Cyclone Kingdom podcast weekly, coming at you. I'm a dire Chiefs and Cyclones fan, and a follower of Jesus Christ. My name is AJ Caldwell. We're still figuring out the podcast dynamics over on audio settings, so Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We're still getting those kinks worked out, and we'll get those to you guys hopefully the next couple of weeks. We haven't been able to figure it out thus far. Tends to be what happens when you've been gone for a year from the actual podcast. But come on in here, guys. We are hanging out as always. We'll get to some comments. Want to do a little bit of a mailbag tonight as well. I think it would be a lot of fun to hear what you guys are thinking about the upcoming college football season and the Iowa State season, how the Chiefs look, especially with the Ashton Gillotte injury. We'll get into all of it. So let me just link this to our Twitter account, and we will get it rocking and rolling. Hope everyone's having a great Friday night. One of the last weeks without full regular season football. I am very, very excited for that and everything that it brings, because it is time for football. Finally, it is time for football. Let me just link this really quick. And I appreciate you guys as always. There we go. Might hear my dog in the background a little bit. We got a new puppy a couple weeks ago, and so that's been a lot of fun being able to hang out with him and love on him a little bit. So again, we are going to give our take on the Ashton Gillotte injury and what that means for Iowa State, or for the Chiefs rather, going into the season. We are rocking the Brock Purdy jersey and the Chiefs hat as always, to show the Chiefs and the Cyclones fandom every single week. So we're going to have a full college football preview tonight, maybe a little bit longer than an hour than what we're used to. If you guys have any takes on the college football season, feel free to chime in the comments, and we will get to those when we can. So I'm giving my full Iowa State prediction, my season prediction. We just finished it on Cyclone Central, which if you guys want to go check that out, at Cyclone Central on YouTube, on X, on TikTok. We just finished that season prediction, and we will get into that. A couple of more housekeeping things or logistical things before we get started. Our family's YouTube channel is linked in the description as well if you want to go check that out. My wife and I are Disney-loving Christians, and we enjoy being able to interact with people and have some fun with those types of things. I mentioned Cyclone Central, exclusive Iowa State podcast coming up. And every single week, we are live again tomorrow. We're every Wednesday and Saturday live on YouTube and X. But we're live here tonight on the Cyclone Kingdom channel, and we're giving a full college football preview of Iowa State and a full college football preview. So you will hear kind of my full, more or less rough draft of what the college football playoff is going to look like this year. And so we'll see how that turns out as we get ready for college football starting just next Saturday, guys. It's crazy how quickly this is turning around to get us into football season. I'm rambling on and on. Let's stop belaboring the point and let's get right into it. Let's start with Iowa State. We finished up our schedule prediction, 3-part preview show on Cyclone Kingdom and Cyclone Central, rather, if you want to check that out. So Iowa State's record going in to the season, I think Iowa State starts the season 3-0. I do. I think Iowa State beats SEMO. I think they beat Iowa on the road, and I think they beat Bowling Green. I think they get off to a rock-solid start. And then I think the bottom falls out. They lose 3 straight to Utah, West Virginia, and BYU. That BYU game on the road on a Friday night. Then they beat Arizona on the road. I think that'll be the one giant killer game for Iowa State, going on the road to what should be a very good Arizona team who will also be off the bye, and they will beat them. So, and then they'll beat Oklahoma State at home. So they'll go on a 3-game win streak to start the year, 3-game losing streak, and then a 2-game winning streak before going 2-2 to finish the season, losing to Baylor and UCF and winning against Cincinnati and Kansas State. So I got Iowa State finishing 7-5. 7-5 on the season. I think it's a winning season for Jimmy Rogers. I think it is. Wow, that was a loud nose sounds going on over there. I apologize for that. Back at school this week as a teacher, and maybe these elementary kids are getting to me. But I got Iowa State at 7-5. So I think it's a winning season for Jimmy Rogers. I think you go 2-0 against Iowa and Kansas State. We just put out a YouTube short and a TikTok video about that. If you guys want to check that out. So my personal opinion on it is the reason Iowa State goes 7-5 is because of the culture Jimmy Rogers built. He's very personable. He loves people well, not only the players and the staff, but also people within the media. And I think this bodes well for Iowa State. I really do. I think the win against Iowa, for multiple reasons, is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a really exciting game, a game down to the wire. It's going to make me very nervous, and it's going to end up with Iowa State coming out on top. So again, the wins for Iowa State: SEMO, Iowa, Bowling Green, Arizona, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, and Kansas State. And then I have losses to UCF, Baylor, BYU, West Virginia, and Utah. So that is my take going into the season. It is in stone. I am not changing it. 7-5 Iowa State for the 2026-27 season. Let's get to some reactions to that. Can't wait for 49ers versus Rams. R695 says, yeah, I cheer for the 49ers, but I am more of a Brock Purdy fan than a Niners fan. I cheer for the Chiefs and love cheering for Brock Purdy as an Iowa State alum. With Brock Purdy being an Iowa State alum. Troy says, why are you giggling when they're going to beat Iowa? For multiple reasons, Troy. If you have an X account, you can check that out. There's a lot going on X right now with my interactions and relationships with Hawkeye fans. A. Wilmer says, LOL. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but as always, guys, make sure you leave some comments and we'll get to those as we can. I guess I'm fighting some type of stuffy nose right now, which I apologize. Was not planning on that going into the episode, but we fight through and we power through. Speaking of fighting through, we are going to uncut, unfiltered, rank and predict some major college football schedules so you guys kind of know where my college football playoff vision looks like. What my predictions vision sounds outrageous, but what my college football predictions are for 2026 and 27. So let's obviously start the SEC. They're one of the main major conferences in college football. And we're going to start with Big Bad Georgia. Georgia gets the first schedule prediction. They will be one of the top teams in college football again. Based on how I think some of these games shake out, that will tell you where I think Georgia will be. And again, I am predicting this live on the air. I have not looked at their schedule. I have not planned for this. I'm planning for the full college football preview right now, but I didn't plan on looking at these until right now. So Georgia starts at home against Tennessee State and Western Kentucky. I got my Phil Still Preview magazine here. Again, not great for rankings, not great for if you want to see what he thinks about your team. It's not great for that. From a depth standpoint and a schedule standpoint, there's a lot of great content here. Ruoff says on TikTok, Penn State 0-12 or suspended. Would not hate it. And I think I've predicted the Penn State schedule already. I think I said 8-4, but we might do it again tonight. This is our full college football preview, by the way. So make sure you like and subscribe for all Chiefs and Cyclones content. We'll get to some Chiefs content in just a little bit for you Chiefs fans joining on. But we are doing our full college football preview because college football starts next Saturday, guys. It starts next Saturday. So Ruoff, thanks for the follow on TikTok. I appreciate it. So they start at home against Western Kentucky and Tennessee State. That's going to be 2 W's. I don't see any Appalachian State against Michigan nonsense happening. At Arkansas is multiple years behind where they should be. They feel like they're always in that type of just nothingness as a program, unfortunately. So I got them being Arkansas. At home against Oklahoma is an interesting one. I think John Mateer is really good. I think he has a chance to win the Heisman this year. And I think Oklahoma is really good this year. I've grown in my respect for them when they left for the SEC. They were the big bad bully and just really annoying when they were in the Big 12. Now that they've left and are in the SEC, my respect has grown for them. My wife loves following their gymnastics. That probably has a aspect of that. Probably has something to do with it as well. Goodness, I can't even speak right now. So I'm going to say Oklahoma walks into, what is it, Sanford Stadium and beats Georgia. I think that that's a huge win for Oklahoma, and they will come out victorious. Georgia at home against Vanderbilt. I'll give them a win there. Georgia at Alabama on October 10th. Could be one of the games of the year. Very, very intriguing game that could potentially be one of the college football defining games. Playoff defining games, I should say. I don't think Alabama's going to be very good. I don't think they'll be, well, I don't want to spoil that yet, but I'm very curious to see if they'll even be a college football playoff team. But Georgia and Alabama, I will give that to Georgia. I think they're too good. I think Oklahoma is very good as well. I actually think Oklahoma is better than Alabama, to kind of show my cards a little bit. Georgia at home against Auburn. I love Alex Golesh. I love what he is building over there at Auburn, former Iowa State offensive coordinator, but they're still a couple years out as well. Then they go on the bye and they play in the, what is the Georgia-Florida game called again? The Great Tailgate or something like that. Cocktail Party, I think is what it is. Georgia, Florida is just a dumpster fire, unfortunately. As someone who loved watching Tim Tebow growing up, it is sad to see what has become of Florida, and I think that does not change this season. Georgia at Ole Miss is a very interesting game. I love Trinidad Chambliss. I love what they're building over there. I love what Pete Golden is doing since Lane Kiffin left and making them respectable and getting them a game away from a national championship last year after Lane Kiffin had already left and had all the drama, and it was just a dramatic telenova, if you will, just Lane Kiffin's nonsense. So kudos to Ole Miss for doing that. This is a huge game for Georgia. I have them 7-1 going into this game. So this could determine whether Georgia makes the college football playoff or not. And to be honest, I think Chambliss is a dog. I think he's a guy, no pun intended towards Georgia, but I think Chambliss is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Similar to John Mateer, I think Georgia gets it taken to him by two of the best quarterbacks in college football, in John Mateer and Trinidad Chambliss. I don't know what a score prediction would be, but I think it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty for Georgia. I think Ole Miss at home in Oxford in that raucous crowd is gonna be unreal. So then Georgia's at home for homecoming against Missouri. They'll win that game. At South Carolina is tricky. Lenore Sellers is back for South Carolina. I love South Carolina. They provide a lot of different vibes. I call them the Iowa State of the SEC. I think they're really fun. Love Shane Beamer, but Georgia's too good. And as much as I'd love to pick South Carolina for that game, I can't do it. And then Georgia at home against Georgia Tech. I will have them win that game. So I have Georgia at 10-2 for the 2026-27 season. Where will that put them in the college football playoff? We're going to find out. Let's do Texas next. So we're going to go through kind of the top teams in college football. So we'll go Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma, Ole Miss. I guess we'll go Texas A&M, Tennessee, and LSU as well. So we'll go through the SEC. We'll see how long this takes. But Roberto says, do you want Matt Campbell to do bad at Penn State? I hope Penn State loses every game. I think it's a new era of Cyclone football. And in that case, I do not care anymore about Penn State. And I wish them well in the sense that I hope they're doing well personally. From a sports standpoint, success standpoint, I hope they lose every game. That's just the nature of college football now. When you leave and the way you treat people when you leave, it's tough. It's super tough. Texas. Again, I've grown in my respect for Texas since they left the Big 12. They were just a really annoying bully when they were in the Big 12. And it was really fun beating them. Now that they're in the SEC with Steve Sarkisian, they're doing great work over there, and I have to give them respect, especially with Arch Manning and what he's doing. Open the year against Texas State. That will be a W. And then the big one, September 12th, at home against Ohio State. Ohio State is a really good team. Ryan Day is unbelievable. He does phenomenal work. for the Buckeyes year in and year out. I'm going to give Texas the dub. I think them being at home helps. I think Ohio State's offense has been kind of weird. I know Jeremiah Smith's there. I know Julian Sand's there. Julian Sand didn't really impress me that much last year. And I think Arch Manning bounces back. I think he's going to have a great sophomore season, and he's going to be in the running for the Heisman. I really do. I think there's a lot of great quarterbacks in college football this season. At home against UTSA, they'll win that one as well. At Tennessee is tricky on September 26th. Texas at Tennessee. Tennessee is always very they flirt with the upsets and flirt with the success, especially when they're at home and night games like that. And so I don't really love Texas's chances here, but I do like the fact that Steve Sarkisian is calling the offense, and I think that means the world to Texas. I will have them going into Neal Stadium and beating Tennessee. Texas and Oklahoma and the Red River Shootouts. This game is going to be massive. Massive, massive, massive. Probably even bigger than the Georgia and Alabama game. Texas and Oklahoma. It's always a fun game, but even more so this year with two great quarterbacks, two great teams. Oklahoma is really good. Texas is going to be really good. Who makes more plays, John Mateer or Arch Manning? I will take John Mateer, and I will take Oklahoma to beat Texas and Oklahoma to beat Georgia. So if you have any idea what I think about Oklahoma, they're going to be really good. Texas at home against Florida. Florida, again, like I said, is not what they once were. In terms of the Tim Tebow days, they're a dumpster fire. Texas against, it says Mississippi, but I guess that means Ole Miss. Texas at home against Ole Miss. I love Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is really good. I think that could be a really scary game for Texas at home. And I will give Trinidad Chambliss the edge there. I think Chambliss is better than Arch Manning. I think Pete Golden is sneaky in terms of top head coaches in college football. And they're going to walk into Texas home stadium and hand them an L. Mississippi State at home is a different story. I think Texas bounces back in a major way. Mississippi State might get blown out in that one. Texas at Missouri. I love what Missouri's doing. Being a Chiefs fan, watching them and everything, but Texas is just on another level. Texas at LSU. This could get bad for Texas if they lose this game. However, I agree with what everyone is saying. I don't know how good LSU is going to be. I think they might be a year out, even with Lane Kiffin. And that means that speaks volumes to just how topsy-turvy it might be in Baton Rouge this year. So give me Texas to win on the road at LSU. Give me Texas to win at home against Arkansas. And then Texas at Texas A&M. I have Texas at 8-2 right now. So this could be, or 9-2, sorry. This could be the difference between Texas making the college football playoff and being out with 3 losses. So I am so interested to see where Texas A&M is going to be at. We're going to preview them in just a second. I'm curious to see where Texas A&M is going to be at because they're going to be really good as well. And it's at Kyle Field. And man, I go back and forth with that one. I'm going to come back to that game because that would be the difference between a college football playoff for one of those teams or the other. Alabama, again, like I said, I don't think very highly of them this year. I think they're going to struggle a lot. Kalen DeBoer is a well-meaning guy, but he just does not have the fire that Nick Saban did, and that is going to mean a lot when you look at their schedule. At home against East Carolina, they will win that game. They go straight to Kentucky on September 12th. Sneaky little trap game, early on trap game. But I will take Alabama to win that game. Alabama at home against Florida State, trying to avenge that unreal loss to Florida State last year, and then Florida State just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. I like what Florida State's doing. Now, their quarterback, Castellanos, I think is how you say his last name. I think it's very interesting what's gone on with Florida State from the college football playoff year where they missed it even though they were undefeated because they lost their quarterback, Jordan Travis, to a season-ending injury. I think they haven't really been the same since then. And I love what they're trying to do. but it is a different era in college football. Give me Alabama. And yeah, so it's very interesting. Get to some comments here. We got some interesting troll comments going on. The no name account that likes to follow us around. Not trying to be rude, he says, but you need to start being understanding of your critics. You got a lot of passion, you need to channel it better. You need to stop getting upset at people and calling them vile if they don't like your take. Let me address that really quick because I appreciate the feedback there. There's a difference between not liking a take and attacking someone's personal character, attacking their family, calling out how they're even married, and attacking them as a personal human being. I don't mind people disagreeing with my takes. I've said that for months and being in this account. I'm trying to bring wholesome sports media back to the fray and being a part of something special with giving takes and having fun and doing a lot of great things. So it's not that I go after people that don't like my take. I go after people, or not go after people, but I call people out for taking things too far and being just disrespectful, inappropriate, everything. Cyclone fans included. I'm not just talking about Hawkeye fans. I'm talking about people in general, from any fan base, including my own. I think that there is a very vast misunderstanding about what sports media and what sports debate should look like and what it actually should be. It should be about talking about sports and moving on with your day. If you're going to call me out personally for my character and all those different things, that's not going to go well, because I believe as a Christian and someone who desires to exalt Jesus Christ in their life, that you are a valued image bearer of God. You are important and you are created in God's image. If you're going to attack me and say that I'm not, or call me different things, inappropriately call me vile, disrespectful things, I'm going to call you out on that because I care about you as a person, and I care more about the glory of God being shown through what I'm trying to do and other people's lives. I will not stand for people blaspheming Jesus Christ's name. I will not stand for them dragging his name through the mud. He's a holy God and a holy Savior who is my Lord and Savior, and you will not disrespect him. If you want to talk about sports, disagree with my sports takes, that's fine. That's part of sports debate. That's the part I love, actually. You go after me personally, you go after my family personally, you start calling me disrespectful and inappropriate names, I'm going to call you out for it because we're better than that as a society, and God calls us to more than that. This isn't the holier now, you're too religious, which I've also gotten. This is, I believe Jesus Christ is my Savior and Lord. I believe he's the only way to heaven. I believe he's God and very God, and I'm unashamed about that. If you don't believe that, if you don't like that, that's fine. I will continue to call you to repentance, but don't call me out as a personal human being about a sports take. I make sports takes and I make takes about repenting from your sins and believing in the Bible. They are two separate tweets. If you call me out personally, I'm going to call you to repentance. If there's the same person doing the same thing over and over again, you're getting blocked. I don't have time for that. There's no rhyme or reason to it with these people. There's no understanding of what it actually looks like to separate one thing from the other. I don't get it. I don't get why everything has to be about you believe this, therefore you are this type of person. You believe this, therefore you're this type. No, it's a sports take. It's not that serious. I'm a passionate guy. I'm going to say things with my chest. It's about sports. You call me out personally. Now you make it personal, and I'm going to call you to repentance because God calls you to more than that. God calls you to way more than that. I get what you're trying to do, he says, but you need to do a better job ignoring them. They're trying to troll you. I get the trolls exist. I do. I get the trolls exist, but I also believe that's a human being behind that computer screen or behind that keyboard or whatever it is, and they matter in the scope of eternity, and they will face God one day. And I am not doing my duty as a Christian or loving them well as a human being on this earth if I don't call them to repentance and say that's wrong. There was a Cyclone account. I won't say who. It was a Cyclone account that called out an Iowa fan and said, here's how I'm going to treat you when Iowa State beats Iowa. And it was basically a vile, inappropriate gesture and phrase. And I called him out on it. A fellow Cyclone fan. I called him out on it. And he told me to shut the F up. This is what I'm dealing with, guys. I'm calling people to be better, to not make it so personal, to have fun talking about sports and then love people and dap them up. Some of y'all take it way too serious. Some of y'all need to understand there's more to life than sports, and you will face God one day and give an account for that. You will face God one day and give an account for that. That's my take on that. Appreciate the feedback. So yeah. So let's get back to our Alabama schedule prediction. We'll get to a couple more of these schedule predictions, and then we'll talk Chiefs a little bit. But again, full college football preview show going on here. So, Alabama at home against South Carolina. I will give them a dub in that. I hate to pick against South Carolina, but it's got to do it. Alabama at Mississippi State. I'll have them win that. I have Alabama losing to Georgia. So I'll give them an L there. Alabama at Tennessee is not what it once was. Alabama against Tennessee at Tennessee. That's another L for the Crimson Tide. Alabama at home against Texas A&M. Texas A&M is going to be very, very, very good this year. People don't realize that. It's very, very good. They're a very good football team. 3 straight L's for Alabama. They go on bye and then at LSU. I think they will pick up a big W at LSU there. At Vanderbilt, House of Horrors for Alabama, but I think they pull out that W. Chattanooga at home. Sorry, Chattanooga. You might not make that out alive. And then the Iron Bowl to finish that season. Iron Bowl is always a lot of fun. I think Alex Golish will have the boys hyped up for that one. But at Alabama, I'll give them the home field advantage. And I have Alabama at 9-3. So I have Alabama probably, hopefully, missing the college football playoff, although they got in last year as a 3-loss team. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Alabama at 9-3. Let's go through Oklahoma. This is one of my top teams in the country this year. Let's see how many more we got here. I might not do Tennessee right now. I don't think LSU is going to be that good either. We'll do Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and we'll move on to a different conference because we got to get rocking and rolling. UTEP at home. Oklahoma at home against UTEP. That's a dub. I'll try not to lean away from the microphone here. Oklahoma at Michigan. Massive game. Massive game in the big house. And this is where John Mateer puts his stamp that he can win the Heisman this year. This is where he puts his stamp on it. I think they walk into the big house and get a win. I think Kyle Whittingham is doing great stuff with Michigan in the turnover there. But Michigan's been through a lot lately, man. They've been through a lot from a off-the-field standpoint. And I think that plays more of a factor than people realize going into this season. Oklahoma at home against New Mexico. Easy dub there. I have Oklahoma beating Georgia on the road. Big win for John Mateer and the boys. Oklahoma and Texas in the Red River rivalry. I have Oklahoma beating Texas. I have Oklahoma beating Kentucky at home. Oklahoma at Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State's still a couple years out. Oklahoma against South Carolina. South Carolina going on the road to Norman. This one's tricky because South Carolina's always got a trick up their sleeve. South Carolina's always got that one game in them where they can go in and shock the world, and this is that game. Oklahoma loses at home to South Carolina. Oklahoma at Florida, they'll be out for their get back after that loss to South Carolina. Oklahoma at home against Ole Miss. That is the game of the year. I know I said Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, Oklahoma, Michigan. Oklahoma and Ole Miss on November 14th could be the game of the year. That has superstar one seed in the college football playoff written all over it. It just does. I think both those teams are that good. Because it's at home, I'm going to give the edge to Oklahoma. I think John Mateer is that good. I think if he stays healthy with that defense, they're phenomenal. Oklahoma at home against Texas A&M. This is a gauntlet of a schedule, man. Holy cow. This is a gauntlet of a schedule. At home against Texas A&M. Man. Texas A&M is going to be really good too. I will say, we're going to come back to that one. And then Oklahoma beats Missouri on the road. So before the Texas A&M game, I have them 10-1. 10-1 before we predict that Texas A&M game. Let's do Ole Miss and A&M, and then we will see where we're at. Benjamin says, go Hawkeyes, go Cyclones, baby. Picking the Cyclones to beat the Hawkeyes and Iowa have not won since Joe Biden was president in 2021. It's going to be cinema. It's going to be cinema. Mississippi, Ole Miss, sorry, in a neutral site in Nashville against Louisville. Very interesting game. Starts off with a W. Trinidad Chambliss reminds the world what he did last season. And we move on and move forward. At home against Charlotte is a dub. At home against LSU. LSU walks in at the wrong time. Lane Kiffin going back to Ole Miss. I mean, that is going to be a massive dub for the Rebels. Ole Miss at Florida. That's a tricky one. I think Florida the Swamp is a different team than Florida just in general. Benjamin is lost his mind. I was just a joke. Iowa by 20. I'm bookmarking that one, Benjamin. Stick around. Stick around once the Cy-Hawk game happens. It's been a Cyclone state for 4 years. I don't know what a Hawkeye state is. That the last time someone said it's a Hawkeye state, Joe Biden was still president. That's how long ago that was. Be better. Be better. Appreciate you though, Benjamin. Replying to comments here on TikTok. Okay, at Florida, Ole Miss at Florida. Tricky game. I'm going to give them an L. At Vanderbilt, they'll get their get back, especially off a bye. Ole Miss at home against Missouri. Missouri has just got a gauntlet of a schedule. Goodness gracious. They might not win a lot of games, guys. Ole Miss at Texas. I had Trinidad Chambliss and them boys winning that game, I believe. Yes, I did. They go into Austin, Texas, and win that. Ole Miss at home against Auburn. Auburn's still a couple years away. Ole Miss at home against Georgia. What did I choose for that game? Another loss. Or another win, sorry, for Trinidad Chambliss. I think he's doing great work for the Rebels. And then Ole Miss at Oklahoma. So we'll pick the Wofford game. They'll beat Wofford, and they'll beat Mississippi State at home. Okay, game of the year here. Ole Miss at Oklahoma. College football playoff on the line. I have them both at 10-1 before that game. Oh, man. Oh, I already picked it. I had Oklahoma winning. Just kidding. Oklahoma wins that game. Ole Miss at 10-2 unless they can beat Florida. So, Benjamin, appreciate the follow, bro. Appreciate the follow. Stick around for that Cy-Hawk game. So, yeah, I got Ole Miss 10-2. Let's do Texas A&M, and then we'll move on to a different conference. We still got to get to some Chiefs stuff. Appreciate y'all hanging around. Texas A&M at home against Missouri State. These FCS games are just brutal, bro. Poor teams. Texas A&M at home against Arizona State. Very interesting. Arizona State has kind of waffled since the Cam Scatterby year. I'll give it to Texas A&M. Marcel Reed's an unbelievable player. Mike Elko is an unbelievable coach. So I think that it's a very interesting time to be a Texas A&M fan. Like, you have a lot of expectations. I think of Dude Perfect a lot because they follow Texas A&M. Texas A&M at home against Kentucky. I'll give them a dub there. Texas A&M at LSU. Another sneaky game. Ole Miss at Florida. Texas A&M at LSU. You could see LSU and Florida winning both those games, guys. You just could. And for that reason, I'm going to give Texas A&M a loss. Death Valley, I think, is no joke. They'll win at home against Arkansas. They'll win on the road at Missouri. They'll beat Citadel. They play Citadel on October 17th. That's a weird timing for that game. Texas A&M at Alabama. I had A&M winning that game, I thought. Yep. A&M wins that game. They go into Johnny Manziel style. They go into Tuscaloosa and win that game. At South Carolina. I love South Carolina. They are not at that level. At home against Tennessee. I'll give them a win there. And then this is the other game that we haven't picked yet. Oklahoma at home against Texas A&M with the college football playoff on the line. Who comes out on top, man? That's such a tough game. That is such a tough game to pick. Holy cow. And the Texas A&M Texas game. These last two games are massive for Texas A&M season, especially if they lose that game at LSU. I will say, I mean, they're going to split these. There's no way they go 2-0. I will say they beat Texas at home. They lose to Oklahoma on the road. So I will say Texas loses. Texas is at 9-3. I got Texas at 9-3. So Texas A&M loses to Oklahoma. So I would have Oklahoma at 11-1. I told you guys. Try to tell you guys Oklahoma's good. I got Texas at 9-3. Ole Miss. I think that's all we're doing SEC. I love you, Tennessee, but not this year. Not your year. A lot of good teams. SEC is just too loaded. It's too loaded. Let's do the Big Ten. Fish and Paul says on TikTok, why do you got a 49ers jersey on instead of the Chiefs? I am a Iowa State fan. As you know, Fish and Paul, you got a Hawkeye profile picture. I love Brock Purdy, and I love watching him play. Wanted to give some respect to my dog as we get prepared for the season. So, appreciate y'all hanging out. Let's see if we got on YouTube. I think we're just chilling right now. Cool. Let's keep it rocking and rolling. The Big Ten. Let's see how many teams we want to do for this. We got Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon, USC, Michigan. And I think we'll stop there. We got Penn State, Washington, Iowa. If you guys want to really have some fun, I can do those as well. Let's predict the Ohio State schedule. Starts at home against Ball State. Poor Ball State. Ohio State is really good. I don't know if Julian Saint's quite there yet, guys. He didn't impress me too much last year. He just really didn't. What were his stats last year, actually? I want to check that really quick before we get into it. Threw for over 3,000 yards, 3 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So not bad as on a whole as the regular season. That's actually really good. I just think in the big games he came up short. In the big games he just seemed really small. Ohio State at Texas. I already forgot what I picked for that game. Let's check that out really quick. That is a loss for Ohio State. So they go to 1-1. They get Kent State at home. That's a dub. Illinois at home. That's a dub. At Iowa. Sorry, Hawkeyes. I think Iowa barely wins 8 games this year. So they give me a dub for the Buckeyes there. Maryland at home. Maryland's in a rough spot. At Indiana. Ohio State at Indiana. How good is Indiana now that they've kind of reached the pinnacle? Do they still have that fire to go back-to-back? They still have that drive within them? I don't think so. I think Ohio State walks in there and gets a big dub. Ohio State at USC. I really, really, really like USC this year. I really do. I think they're really good. Ohio State at home against Oregon. I also really like Oregon. I think Dante Moore, dude, there are so many good quarterbacks in college football this year. Holy cow. So many good college quarterbacks. I think it's back-to-back losses. At USC and at home against Oregon, I think it's back-to-back losses for Ohio State. Ohio State at home against Northwestern will be a dub. Ohio State at Nebraska, sneaky, but give me the Buckeyes. And then the big game, the end of the year, Ohio State at home. I'll give them the home field advantage against Michigan. I got Ohio State 9-3. Got Ohio State 9-3, guys. That's not great. Not great. How do we feel about Indiana? Josh Hoover, the quarterback from TCU last year, taking over for Fernando Mendoza. At home against North Texas is a dub. At home against Howard is a dub. At home against Western Kentucky is a dub. At home against Northwestern is a dub. At Rutgers is a dub. This schedule is buns. At Nebraska is a dub. I said they would lose to Ohio State at home. At Michigan, that's tough. That's really tough. I think Michigan's tough to play. I know Kurt Cignetti's great. I know they have all these different guys. Still got Charlie Becker. Still got Nick Marsh. I don't know, man. I just think that's a tough ask for the defending national champions. Back-to-back losses. At home against Minnesota, they might beat them by 50. At home against USC. USC is really good this year. Going to Indiana, I think, is tough. I will give Indiana the edge there. At Washington, could be a huge, huge game. Oh, man. They'll finish the season with a win at Purdue. I will say at Washington, that's tough. Indiana 9-3. I got Indiana 9-3, guys. Ohio State 9-3, Indiana 9-3. Let's see what we see with Oregon. At home against Boise State. Fun game to kick off the season. Give it to the Ducks. Dante Moore is really good. I love Dan Lanning. I love what he brings to the Ducks. At Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's going to be really good. How good will they be? Better in the Big 12 than in the non-conference. I'll give that to Oregon. Portland State at home. Portland State might lose by 70. At USC. Oregon at USC. Old Pac-12 rivals. It's a tough ask for Oregon. It is less of a travel than it would be for most Big Ten teams this year. So for that reason, I will give Oregon the edge. I like what they're doing more than what Lincoln Riley's doing, even though I love USC. At home against UCLA. UCLA is in a rough spot. At home against Nebraska. Sorry, Nebraska. At Illinois. Illinois is not on Oregon's level yet, in my opinion. Northwestern at home is a dub. Oregon at Ohio State. I picked Oregon to win that, I believe. Yep, I got Oregon winning that. Oregon at home against Michigan is a lot different than Oregon at Michigan. Give me a dub there. At Michigan State is a dub there. And at home for Washington is a dub there. At the Ducks, 12-0. I was not expecting that. I thought I had a loss in there somewhere. I got Oregon 12-0. I think they're really good. And I think Dan Lanning's a mastermind with how he gets his teams ready. Jaden Mayava and the USC Trojans with Lincoln Riley at the helm. Hot seat year for Lincoln Riley if USC cannot get it done. At home against San Jose State is a dub. At home against Fresno State is a dub. At home against Louisiana is a dub. At Rutgers is a dub. I have them losing at home against Oregon. I'll have them bouncing back and beating Washington. At Penn State, USC at Penn State. Rocco Becht in a big spot. Don't love it. Give me USC. Off a bye at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's offense hasn't been good since Jonathan Taylor. USC at home against Ohio State. Give me the Trojans. USC at Indiana. Give me a loss? Whoop. Nope, a dub for Indiana, so a loss for USC. At home against Maryland is a dub, and at UCLA is a dub. 10-2 USC. So JFK says USC is the youngest team in the Big Ten. Riley loses local talent. I got him at 10-2. Got him at 10-2 with a big win over Ohio State in there as well. Let's predict Michigan, and then we will. Oh, I guess I got Penn State here for you really quick. They'll beat Marshall, win at Temple, beat Buffalo, beat Wisconsin, win at Northwestern. So they'll start the year 5-0. They'll lose back-to-back games to USC and Michigan. They'll beat Purdue, lose at Washington, lose at home to Minnesota in classic Matt Campbell fashion, beat Rutgers, and beat Maryland, and they will be 8-4 on the season. Let's do Michigan real quick, and then we will move on to who's next? ACC. ACC doesn't got too many teams. We will stop there, I think. We're gonna do a bit. We're gonna preview the Big 12 a little more on Cyclone Central tomorrow. If you guys want to see that. I've never linked that on Cyclone Kingdom. I'll start linking Cyclone Central if you guys want to check that out. I guess Miami's in the ACC, so we might need to preview that real quick. So we'll do the ACC, and then we'll finish up the last 10-15 minutes talking about the Chiefs. Are there any teams I am missing? Big 12. We're going to do that later. Is just the G5. Oh, and Notre Dame. We got to do Notre Dame schedule. All right, come more. At home against Western Michigan for Michigan Wolverines. They'll win that game. At home against Oklahoma. This was the big game we picked earlier. And I got... Who do I have? I got Oklahoma. That's a loss for Michigan. Huge loss. At home against UTEP, they will win that game. At home against Iowa, Iowa may not score. At Minnesota, I just love picking on Iowa, man. It's fun. At Minnesota is a dub. Minnesota's not very good. At home against Penn State, no shot for Matt Campbell and Iowa State East. At home against Indiana, who did I have for that game? I got that as a dub for Michigan. at Rutgers is a dub. Michigan State at home is a dub. At Oregon is a loss because I got Oregon 12-0, so Oregon's not losing a game. So that's a loss for Michigan. At home against UCLA is a dub, and at Ohio State is a loss. Michigan Wolverines 9-3. 9-3. Reptilian says, explain the fandom where you're a Joe Montana fan. I'm an Iowa State fan. Brock Purdy. Let me reveal it. Boom. Brock Purdy. And a Chiefs fan. Cyclones and Chiefs fan. So giving some love to Brock Purdy. All right, so I'll tweet out my ultimate college football playoff predictions based on these schedule predictions I'm making. So appreciate you, Reptilian. Leave a like and follow. Make sure you guys like and subscribe for all Chiefs and Cyclones content over here at Cyclone Kingdom. We're putting out daily Chiefs and Cyclones videos in preparation for the season. We'll be reacting live to each game, and we'll be giving a lot of different takes about Iowa State games, Chiefs games, everything that goes along with that. Let's do a couple more college football schedule predictions, and then we will finish up with the Chiefs. Okay, so let's go Miami, SMU, Clemson, and then we'll predict Notre Dame, and then we'll be done with the college football preview for now. I'll tweet out my college football playoff predictions and post that picture on our TikTok, which I need to do more. I need to post that in stories. Apologies for that. I'll do better. The national championship runner-ups from last year, the Miami Hurricanes, start at Stanford on a Friday night. I think that's a tough environment to start with, but they will find a way because Mario Cristobal and Darian Mensah are great in that way. Malachi Toney, one of the best gadget skill guys in the country. At home against Florida A&M. Poor Florida A&M. They might not have a football program after that one. Miami at Wake Forest. I got Miami. Miami at home for Central Michigan. I got Miami. Miami at Clemson. Is Clemson back or is Clemson dead? I think Clemson is dead. Give me Miami. Tough spot for Miami, but I think the world of Mario Cristobal and what they're doing. Miami at home against Florida State. Give me a dub for the Canes. At home against Pittsburgh. Give me a dub. At North Carolina with Bill Belichick. Sneaky little trap game in preview for their game at Notre Dame. Give me Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels. Miami at Notre Dame. We're going to come back to that game because that's one of the best games of the season. Miami at home for Duke is a dub. At home for Boston or West Virginia Tech. Good grief. Can't sentence. Is a dub. And at home for Boston College dub. They finish the year with 3 home games. And before the Notre Dame game, they are 10-1. 10-1 before the Notre Dame game, which we'll get to. SMU. Rumored to be going to the Big 12 soon. That kind of died down. They're staying in the ACC. They've done a great job. They were 9-4 last year. How do they do in 2026? SMU at Florida State. That's a tough one to start. That's a loss. I think Florida State plays well on a Monday night. Home for UC Davis is a dub. At Louisville. This is a tough start to the year for SMU. I will have them losing that game. They're starting the year 2-2 after they win at home against Missouri State. They'll win at home against Boston College. They'll win at home against Virginia off the bye. They'll win at home against California. At Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. One of the coolest college football environments just from an optic standpoint. A lot of fun and a lot of nostalgia for your boy watching those back in the day. At Syracuse is a dub. At home against Virginia Tech is a dub. At home against Wake Forest is a dub. At Notre Dame is a loss. That's an impossible place to play, especially SMU being a couple years out. And at Stanford is a W. I have SMU at 9-3. The Clemson Tigers started LSU. That's a loss. No way they're going in there and winning that game. At home against Georgia Southern is a win. At home against North Carolina is sneaky, but it's a win. At Cal, also sneaky. I think they'll pull that out. At home for Miami, no shot. Miami's different. At home against Charleston Southern, another really weird middle of October non-conference game. They'll win that. At home against Virginia Tech, sneaky with James Franklin. No one's talking about Virginia Tech. I just now realized James Franklin was there because I forgot about that. I got them going into Clemson and winning that game. At Florida State, I think Clemson's still better than Florida State. They'll win that. At Syracuse, they'll win that. At home for Georgia Tech, who is sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. These are the types of games they'll get Dabo Swinney fired this year. Georgia Tech walks in to Death Valley, wins. Clemson at Duke, they'll win that. And then Clemson in South Carolina, Shane Beamer puts the nail in the coffin on the Dabo Swinney era and beats Clemson to send Dabo Swinney packing. They go 7-5 a year after they went 7-6, and Clemson's looking for a new head coach. Let's preview Notre Dame's schedule, and then we'll finish with some Chiefs. Appreciate y'all hanging out. We are on here once a week live here on TikTok and YouTube and X. Let's see if we got some interactions going here on X really quick. And then we'll get to it. We got people still being trolls in the comments, man. I love it. I love it. Let's see. 82 views on that right now. We're vibing. Notre Dame. Let's preview Notre Dame's schedule. Appreciate y'all hanging out. 4 people in here on TikTok. Make sure you leave a like and follow for all Chiefs and Cyclones content. Again, those of you guys just joining us, we got Iowa State 7-5 for this season. I think they're going to be really, really good. Or not really good. I think they're going to be decent. They're not going to just have this terrible season, which Lord knows we needed after everything we've gone through. So the Notre Dame Fighting Irish went 10-2 last year, missed the playoff in a very controversial little shindig going on over there right at the end of the season. They opted out of their bowl game because of it. Were very salty because of it. How do they respond with CJ Carr, also a top 10 quarterback in college football this year? Open the season at Lambeau Field against Wisconsin. Going to be an electric atmosphere. Give me Notre Dame. I don't think Wisconsin's very good still. At home against Rice is a dub. At home against Michigan State is a dub. At Purdue is a dub. At North Carolina, sneaky with Bill Belichick, is a dub. At home against Stanford is a dub. At BYU, who I think could win the Big 12. We'll come back to that in just a second. Neutral site against Navy at Gillette Stadium, should be a lot of fun, is a dub for Notre Dame. The Miami game we're going to come back to at home against Boston College is a dub. Do they have any road games? They play like 3 road games. That's crazy. At home against SMU is a dub. And at Syracuse to end the season, that's a weird game to end the season, is a dub. At BYU and home for Miami, do they win both those games? I have them at 10-0 right now for those 2 games. I think they split. And I think going to BYU sneakily is going to be a good game for Notre Dame. And playing at home against Miami is going to be a bad game. I got Notre Dame 11-1, losing against Miami, which means I have Miami. Let's see here. With Miami winning that game, where do I have them? After they beat Notre Dame, I have Miami at 11-1. So that'll be very interesting to see what comes out of that. There's your full cultural preview. We did like 20 different schedule predictions. So hopefully you all enjoyed that. And this will be up on YouTube if you guys want to check it out, or if you're watching it now. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Really quick, last couple minutes, talk about the Ashton Gillotte injury. He has a ruptured plantar fascia, which basically means he has something going on in his foot that is going to sideline him for at least a month, which puts him right at the start of the season. I personally think he's going to miss a couple of games. I don't think he's going to play the first couple of games, which puts all the pressure on R. Mason Thomas, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, George Karlaftis, and whoever you want to throw in there as that 4th guy. It's not ideal. I think the Chiefs need to seriously look at free agency help. I think there needs to be a reckoning of understanding how much this year is a make or break year for Andy Reid, for Brett Veach, for Steve Spagnuolo, for Dave Tobe. There's a lot going on in Kansas City if the Chiefs have another bad season in light of all they didn't do this offseason. If you trust Patrick Mahomes to go do it and to make chicken salad of whatever's going on with Kenneth Walker, with a real running back, Cyrus Allen proving his wide receiver one worth, the defense making plays, and everything's fine. And we're just chilling. We're chilling. If it goes the opposite way, not great. Not great. So we wish Ashton Gillotte the best in his recovery. I think he's going to be back fully healthy. When he'll be back remains to be seen. But I'm excited for him once he comes back. So who do the Chiefs go out and get? Honestly, there's not a lot. If we even look at the defensive ends in free agency, it's very interesting. Who are the defensive ends that are even free agents still? A lot of these guys have already found homes, so I'm very curious who's even still available. Hassan Reddick potentially is available if you want to pay him some money. Joey Bosa, Leonard Floyd, Kyle Van Noy. Are you willing to spend a lot to go get those guys? Because that is basically what's going to be required. They're not going to take a pay cut, even if it means playing for the current dynasty in the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs. So not great news to end training camp. At the same time, you got to love what's going on with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and the deep ball and Xavier Worthy and Tyquan Thornton looking good. I guess Rashee Rice mixing in there. Don't expect a lot from him this year. Anyone that's expecting a lot from him can go kick rocks, can miss me with that fact, because that's not a reality of the Kansas City Chiefs this season. So, again, wishing Ashton Gillotte the best. When he comes back, I think the Chiefs will be fine. He wasn't going to be a main part of the Chiefs defense. He was going to need to be available, but he wasn't going to be like one of the best defenders on the Chiefs. Monster Delane plays tomorrow in the preseason game as we're recording this. That'll be interesting to see how he plays and then how all the rest of the guys mix in. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes won't play, so how does Cyrus Allen look? Does Kenneth Walker get any more reps? Or is it another Emmett Johnson game? We get to see how good he actually is in doing it in back-to-back weeks. So we'll have all the reactions live to that game as well and pumping out videos for you guys about those things. And as a final reminder, we are live at 3 p.m. tomorrow with Luca Mazey, Iowa State Sports Illustrated journalist over there in Ames. We will be live with him on Cyclone Central, previewing Iowa State season and college football at large. So we can get prepped and ready for Jack Trice being full for SEMO in a couple weeks. So let's get to some final comments and then we'll get out of here. We got some fantasy comments in here as well. Fantasy football is almost back. I'm so thankful for that. I got a dynasty league going into year 2, which should be a lot of fun. I have my fantasy league with my wife and some friends, which should be a lot of fun as well. We got to do some mock drafts for that very soon. So fantasy football right around the corner always is a really good reminder that football is back. I mean, there's nothing like watching Red Zone week 1 and being like, I got people to cheer for outside of my own team because I got a fantasy football team to look to. So, and Dynasty is fun. If you guys have never done Dynasty, it's an absolute blast. So let's get out of here and we'll be back next week, guys. Stay tuned for when the podcast is. It'll be once a week, whether or not it's on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. We'll keep you in tune and post about all those things. But as always, make sure you like and subscribe for all Chiefs and Cyclones content. My name's AJ Caldwell. I'm a diehard Chiefs and Cyclones fan and a follower of Jesus Christ. And as always, guys, roll clones. And how about those Chiefs? God bless y'all. See you next week.